Let's talk about death. Okay, not death really, that's a little bit morbid. However, let's actually talk about something that's very uncomfortable. Let's talk about life insurance. What kind of position would you put your family in if you didn't have life insurance and you didn't have proceeds to give them in the event that you actually passed away? So today, I'm gonna break down life insurance for you and make this super simple. We're gonna talk about 3 specific things: which options are available to you, how much life insurance you actually need, and what to consider when purchasing life insurance. And no one wants to think about dying, let alone actually speak about it with your spouse, but this is an important topic and it's something that we as a family have talked about personally, and I want you to talk with your spouse about this as well. Now you might be thinking, if I don't have a spouse or I don't have dependents, well, this life insurance video isn't really for you. The whole purpose of life insurance is to provide in the case that you pass away. So if you are single, there is no reason to have life insurance. The only event that it might make sense is for burial costs. So hopefully you're in a good enough spot to make sure you can cover the burial costs, because at the end of the day, it's only a couple grand, maybe up to $10,000. And we rarely talk about this in personal finance because everyone's focused on budgeting and investing and growing your wealth. However, what about protecting your money and what happens if you do die? And I actually had a client, unfortunately, that her husband did pass away and she had proceeds from an insurance company, but it was only $100,000 and that left her in a bad spot. He was the breadwinner of the family. They had 3 children and nobody was there to support them. So she ended up sending me a GoFundMe link, and it was so sad that I actually wired her $10,000 on the spot to take care of her. However, it's super important to make sure that you do not have the same situation. And none of us want this to happen. However, statistics say it's gonna happen to some of us early in life. And the crazy thing is over half of Americans don't even have life insurance. That's a significant concern for me, and that's why I'm making this video. By not purchasing your life insurance, you're leaving your loved ones at risk. And what type of person are you to do so? So I want you to ask yourself this. If you were to pass away today and your loved ones were out there in the world, would they be able to keep their current standard of living? Or would it put them in a bind if they lost your income? And unfortunately, the answer for many is no. And not to mention, think about the actual situation. A spouse dies, they leave the family. 40, 50-year-old family member leaves the family. One of the leaders of the household just totally disappears, sadly enough. Think about all the emotional turmoil somebody goes through during this event. The last thing you want them to worry about is a financial concern. And sometimes, unfortunately, this individual has to get past the emotional grieving and just go straight to financial. But if you have life insurance, we don't have to do that. And we can put ourselves in a much better situation at a really cheap cost. Life insurance is there to replace your income in the case that you pass away, so your family can continue living the way they've always lived. And I have a secret for you. Term life insurance is really affordable and easy to get. And notice I said term life insurance, not permanent life insurance, but that is for another day. But in short, buy term and invest the rest is my motto. And there's gonna be many factors to consider when getting life insurance. So I'm gonna share our personal situation and how we've actually planned for life insurance ourselves, and also kind of give you some frameworks and considerations to think about for your personal situation. So my wife and I have 1 child with another on the way. My wife is a stay-at-home and I am working full-time doing BudgetDog content. So my wife and I have 1 policy each. I have a $2 million policy and she has a $1 million policy. So therefore, if I die, she receives $2 million, and if she dies, I receive $1 million. Now granted, we have 0 debt, we're 31 years old, and we're worth over $1 million at this point in time. Therefore, there's not a whole lot of costs that we really truly need. Our lifestyle actually is about $5,000 to $6,000 a month, and we don't spend a whole lot of money. The new consideration we have though is that my daughter does have special needs, and we have another daughter on the way in September. So therefore, there's a lot of things to consider with 2 kids, 1 special needs, and 1, hopefully, cross your fingers, is totally fine. And so the reason that she has $1 million and I have $2 million is because of this. If she were to pass, I can sustain because I'm the one actually making the income. Now, if I were to pass, the business goes kaput and she has no income. And so therefore, I want to bump her up a little bit to $2 million to make sure she can replace my theoretical income and our lifestyle. Now, my income has changed drastically over the time. A good rule of thumb that most people use is 10 to 12x of the salary that one spouse has as a benchmark. So therefore, if I make $100,000 gross, my life insurance needs would be about $1 million to $1.2 million. And that's a very easy rule of thumb. However, lifestyles are very, very different. And there's other factors that you actually need to consider when purchasing life insurance. So her policy is about $40 a month and my policy is about $46 a month. Therefore, we're paying $86 a month. However, I'm a CPA, so I'm with the AICPA and I get it through Aon Insurance, and they actually give you about a 37 to 50% rebate every single year. So figure 50% to easy math, 86 divided by 2 is $43 a month for $3 million in total coverage. Pretty good deal and not too expensive. So basically I'm saying $43 a month to make sure that my wife has $2 million if I were to pass, and $43 if I were to pass for my wife. That's a pretty good deal and extremely affordable for any family out there. $43 a month. Not to mention, you might not even need $3 million of coverage. That's what we have. It makes sense for us. But again, your situation is going to be a lot different. And so a good rule of thumb, like I said earlier, is 10 to 12x of your income is a good starting point. However, you got to factor in things like debt, monthly spend, amount of kids, situation, and somewhat investment risk. Let me get into investment risk, because when you actually get a payout from an insurance company, the goal is not to take that $1 million and just go spend it or just put it in a bank account. The goal is to take that money, put it into a brokerage account, and allow that money to generate income from that investment account to replace the old spouse's income. Not to mention, I said term life insurance too. And one of the big things is you don't actually need life insurance your entire life. I know there's a lot of salesmen out there that try to say whole life and IULs are the best thing on this earth. However, that makes sense maybe for the ultra wealthy, but most people listening to this aren't ultra wealthy, and we're not the Rockefellers. I know the Rockefellers are used in this whole life salesman pitch all the time. So all you want to do is opt for a term that takes you to the financial freedom date. So therefore, think if you're 30 years old and at 60 years old, you know that you'll be retired and you'll be financially free. I would opt for a 30-year term in that situation. However, what if you're 45 and you're going to be financially free in maybe 15 to 20 years? You don't need a 30-year term. Let's bump that down to a 15 or 20-year term. And so you might be asking, what happens after? What happens if I don't have term life insurance and I actually pass away at that point? Well, what's the point of life insurance? Let's go back to the beginning of time. Is the point of life insurance is to provide for your spouse in the case that you die. And so therefore, that income then generates as replacement as your income, of your old income. And so if you have assets and you're financially free, why would you need life insurance? There is no benefit to it at that point in time, besides you're paying a premium for the potential risk of losing your life. And so when you're on the search for life insurance, what you always want to do is go through a life insurance broker. I have one in the show notes below, which is Policy Genius, but this is just a nationwide one. You can easily just Google, or you might even have a friend that does life insurance as a broker. Just make sure it's term life insurance and you're not overpaying for this with like a Mass Mutual or Northwestern Mutual. Those guys always get you. So keep it simple. Remember, the point of life insurance is simply to provide for your family in the event that you pass away. It's to provide the same lifestyle that you've always lived. It's to make sure the one that's grieving doesn't have to worry about financial needs. And eventually, life insurance isn't actually a factor in your life once you become financially free. Do it right, pay for a cheap policy, find a good broker, and then set yourself up for a lifetime of success. So within BudgetDog Academy, I often talk about tracking your money, growing your money, and then third is protect your money. And this is life insurance falls in the protect your money bucket. It's something that we want to do to protect what we've actually grown, what we've actually tracked our entire life. We're finally getting some leeway, but then all of a sudden something disastrous happens. We need something to support us in the event that happens. So if you have any questions about life insurance in particular, leave a comment in the show notes below. I will make sure I get back to that. And have a great week, and I will see you next Monday.